Guess the Spread NFL Week 4 edition. You know how it works. We cover them up on the iPad using the Pickett app. Let's get into it. Thursday Night Football. We're going to start here with Dallas at the New York Giants. It actually works because we have a common opponent between these two teams, the Cleveland Browns. Dallas was about a 2-point dog at Cleveland Week 1. I know it moved once they announced Dak and CD were signed and all that. And then you had Cleveland was laying about 6.5 hosting the New York Giants this past week. So that means about 4.5 points apart, these two teams. However, I think there could be a little bit of a tax on Dallas here. Can't go 1-3 to start the season. And the Giants, I don't know if we can overreact too much to Cleveland. It's still the Giants. In short week, favorites tend to do better on the short week, or at least have an advantage because there's no real time to practice, install, all that. It's kind of like roll the balls out, more talented team wins. So I'm going to give Dallas a little bit of a bump for that. I land here, Dallas -6. Answer. Dallas -4.5. All right, off there. How about Cincinnati at Carolina? Now, we haven't seen Cincinnati on Monday Night Football, but we do know they're laying about 7.5 hosting Washington. So that means on a neutral, they're about 6.5 apart. What's the comparison between now Carolina with Andy Dalton and Washington? Does that still get us in that 6.5 neutral? I don't know how much we can overreact. I mean, if you think about the Chargers laid 6.5 at Carolina, I know that was with Bryce Young. So I don't know how much we react to this Andy Dalton. They said he was worth about 2.5, 3 points because that line moved once they announced that Bryce Young was going to be benched. I still think Cincinnati is going to maybe get us to a touchdown here. I can't see them. I don't know if I can see them laying less than a touchdown, especially. I still think Cincinnati easily could have won that Kansas City game. So that's what I'm going to go with my answer. Cincinnati -7. Answer. Cincinnati -5.5. Okay, off there. How about Minnesota at Green Bay? What do we do with Minnesota? We keep upgrading them week by week, it seems like. On a neutral, I got to say it. I think Minnesota's a point better on a neutral. Jefferson, he was kind of banged up in that game, right? He left for a moment. He left for a moment the week before, too. So I'm going to say Minnesota neutral is a point better. I am. And then Green Bay gets their home field. So I land here, Green Bay -1. Answer. Green Bay -3. All right. I think we're going to see a lot of Minnesota +3 here. How about Pittsburgh at Indy? Pittsburgh should be favored, I think. What do we do here? Indy. I mean, so if Houston was -3 at Indy week 1. I don't know if Houston and Pittsburgh are that close, but I do think Pittsburgh going to lay a number here. I think Pittsburgh's 3 better on a neutral than Indy, honestly. I'm not impressed by Indy. I think they're pretty one-dimensional on both offense and defense for the record. I'm going to go here Pittsburgh -2. Answer. Pittsburgh -1.5. Okay, so well done, Tim. Let's go the LA Rams at Chicago. This is a tough cap because, the Rams go on the road, or, not really on the road. It was basically a road crowd, against San Francisco there. They win as 6.5 points dogs just about. And then Chicago, the weird thing is, if you think about it, Chicago was laying 4.5 at home to Tennessee week 1. Like, I know it's Will Levis, but I would go bet that 4.5 over and over again if I could. So I think that the Rams are going to be favored here. I say, say it's the Rams -3 here. We're waiting to see it from Chicago. And the Rams, that was impressive what they did coming back against San Fran. I know both teams were banged up, but that's my answer. LA -3.5. Or excuse me, -3. Answer. Whoa. Chicago -2? Wow, I am off there. Okay. How about Denver at the New York Jets? This should be a little bit easier. The Jets were laying 6.5 hosting New England Thursday night. I think Denver and New England are kind of in that bottom of the barrel. I know that, Denver got the win over Tampa Bay, but I think it's in that same kind of category. 6.5, 7. I think we got to upgrade the Jets, maybe upgrade Denver a little bit, but I still think it's about 7 here. 6.5, 7. I'm going to go 7. Jets -7. Answer. Jets -7.5. Okay. How about Philadelphia at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? So how I'll do this is the Buccaneers were about 6.5 point dogs at Detroit. And so Detroit and Philly could be in the same kind of category. Or, we could use that to base us. Think Detroit's better than Philly. And then Philly was a 5.5 point favorite at home to Atlanta, which meant on a neutral, they were about 4. maybe 3.5. So if we take kind of that metric here and put the Bucs and Atlanta kind of in the same category, I get on a neutral. I get Philadelphia as about 4 better on a neutral, 4.5. Do they lay 3 at Tampa Bay? The home field could be hot and muggy down there. I'm going to go Philly -2. Philly -2. Answer. Philly -2.5. See, it's just math. It's just math. How about Jacksonville at Houston? We can use Houston as a barometer here against Indy. They laid 3 at Indy week 1. I think Indy, Jacksonville, like that, this division's like all kind of like a couple points apart from each other. So I think Houston is about 5.5 better than Jacksonville on a neutral. Yeah. Do they lay? It's going to be more than 3, I think. 3.5. How about Houston -4? Because Jacksonville. Jacksonville tonight. We haven't seen them. They're playing Buffalo. That line was about 6, and then it went down 5.5, 4.5. So I'm going to use just that same area. Yeah, Houston -4. That's my pick. Houston -4. Answer. Houston -4.5. Okay, the math is mathing. New Orleans at Atlanta. We can use that Atlanta-Philly as the same barometer. If New Orleans was 2.5 at home to Philly, that means they thought New Orleans was slightly better than Philly on neutral. And then Philly was laying, like I said, 5.5 at home to Philly. So this means to me on a neutral that New Orleans should be 3 better than Atlanta. About 3 better than Atlanta, I would say, yeah. And then we give Atlanta their slight home field, gets us below 3. I say it's New Orleans -1.5. New Orleans -1.5. Answer. Atlanta -1.5. So we're at the wrong team there. Wrong team favorite, in my opinion. How about New England at San Francisco? So New England was a 6.5 point dog to the Jets. Then the Jets in week 1 were 4.5 point dogs at San Francisco. I know San Francisco's banged up, but New England is absolutely terrible. This gets me through 7. 6.5 plus 4.5 is 10.5. I think you downgrade New England. I get 10.5 here. No, because you got San Francisco home field. I get 11.5 here. San Francisco -11.5. Answer. San Francisco -10.5. Okay, how about Washington at Arizona? Arizona is better than in Washington, I think. We still haven't seen them, like I said, Monday Night Football. I think Arizona's 3 better on a neutral. Arizona's one of the better they're one of the better home teams in the NFL last couple of years. So that gets me through 3. Arizona -4.5 is the answer. It's my answer. The actual answer is Arizona -5. Okay. KC at the LA Chargers. Now this is hard. Herbert leaves that game. Herbert's definitely hurt. I don't know if he's going to play this game. I don't know what line they're going to spit out. Are they going to spit out Herbert might play? Are they going to spit out Herbert, like the line without Herbert playing? I would say with Herbert playing. Actually, no. Herbert playing, I think it's KC -3.5 with Herbert playing, but now Herbert not playing. Maybe they'll give us the Herbert might play type thing. He gets another week to figure this out. I don't know if they're going to give the Herbert not playing line. I think you could call him questionable again. So I would land KC -5.5. I think they put it like in that middle there. So that's my answer. KC -5.5. The actual answer, KC -8.5. So that's like a really Herbert not playing line, in my opinion. So let's go here. Cleveland at the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders, you lose to Andy Dalton. He throws for over 300 yards. But it's still, you got this Cleveland team that's disappointing as hell, man. But they did get that win at Jacksonville. They shouldn't have really won because Jacksonville was abysmal in the red zone. On a neutral, I would say Cleveland on a neutral is like 4. Like, I know they're hard to bet on, but man, 4 on a neutral here. Vegas has not a great home field. There'll probably be Cleveland travels pretty well to a place like Vegas. It's a destination for road teams. So I'm going to land here. Cleveland -3.5. Answer. Cleveland -1. Okay. What has this become? What has this become? I guess that's, I don't know. Jeez. Let's go here. Buffalo at Baltimore. Haven't seen Buffalo on Sunday night yet, or on Monday night rather, because this is Monday morning. If you think Buffalo was a 2.5-point dog at Miami. I think it's probably in that similar range. Maybe a point more for Baltimore. I'm going to go Baltimore -3. Baltimore -3. Answer. Baltimore -2.5. All right. Tennessee at Miami. I will be honest. This is the one line I've seen. I saw it on Twitter. People were like, "Are we really going to bet Tennessee again?" I will give the viewers some time to guess the spread, and I'll just say this: Miami looked bad, and Skylar Thompson gets hurt, so like it's kind of a mess there. I think I know the line, so I can't really give a guess. So I'll just say this: 3, 2, answer. Tennessee -1 is the line. Believe that. Yeah. We're going to be betting Will Levis one more time. I don't know if I can do it. Seattle at Detroit. So Detroit was laying like 6.5 to Tampa Bay at home. They laid 6.5 to the Rams at home. Seattle has been looked pretty good, 3-0 team. I think it's in that 6.5 range, but you got to upgrade Seattle. Maybe slight downgrade for Detroit for when they lost to Tampa Bay at home. I think this gets us to Detroit -5. Detroit -5. Answer. Detroit -4. There you have it. Week 4. Good luck in all your bets. We'll do in a little extended cut here talking about which lines moved, what were our biggest movers and some early bets here. Okay, so the lines I kind of like here. If we just think about this Cleveland game, Cleveland is -1 at Las Vegas. Cleveland went to Jacksonville and was +3.5. They went outright. I think Cleveland here it seems a little cheap for me. So I think Cleveland would be an early lean for me. A bet that I'm absolutely making if I can get off this and still get that number is the Rams +2 at Chicago. Still have to see it with Chicago. I think Minnesota, if I can get them +3, I know it seems like you're buying high on Minnesota, but getting 3 there in that game would feel tremendous. And if not, I would tease Minnesota up from 2.5 to 8.5. I think that Dallas could be a bet at -4.5. I kind of like Detroit -4 against Seattle. I think it might be time to sell on Seattle. 3.5, a team that's 3-0 that has beaten a Miami team with no Tua. They beat Bo Nix as a week 1 starter, and then they beat an abysmal New England team. So I think that Detroit could be a buy for me as well. And finally, I would say that Indy +1.5 at home, auto teaser up to 7.5 because Pittsburgh just plays these low scoring games. Indy is kind of like, I guess, I feel like they're a low variance team, even though they can air it out with Richardson if he wants to, but I think this total is going to be super low. So that's an early lean as well for me. There you have it.